What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Nerd Enthusiast Wrestling Podcast. I'm Christy Francesco, and that is Kyle Barone. What's going on, man?
Not much, man. How you doing?
Doing well, doing well. So we are finally going to get around to the final Royal Rumble pay-per-view that we're going to cover before we get, knee deep into WrestleMania coverage. So tonight we are going to discuss the Royal Rumble from January 25th, 2015, which occurred in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Barone,
I was there.
you were there. He didn't buy that for $200 on the WWE shop.
No, I bought a ticket for $500. They fucking let me keep it.
Isn't that great? You get a chair.
You get a
Thank
chair,
you.
man. We got two because my wife went with me, and I sold that one on eBay like the next day. I think for like $180 I got.
Wow. That's like not bad at all.
For a chair.
Yeah. The reason why we're covering this is because Barone was there. So it kind of, that's why we covered the 04 Rumble. One reason we covered 04 was because it's like the lost tapes according to WWE lore. And I was at that one, and we're covering this one because
you watched a murderer.
I did. I almost watched Triple H and Shawn Michaels murder each other.
You gave them your money.
I did. I watched the Big Show eliminate himself at the end. He just hung on the ropes and flopped over. The man who can never be eliminated himself. So we're gonna cover this one. This was actually a really big time Royal Rumble, and I say this because on our other podcast, the Hot Tag podcast, I did a watch along where I covered the WrestleMania 31 main event between Roman Reigns and Brock Lesnar, where Seth Rollins cashed in. This was really where it all began for that road to WrestleMania, where we saw Seth Rollins get himself over as a main event type player. And then we saw basically maybe where the company might have began shifting away from the idea of crowning Roman Reigns. Mm-hmm. And we're going to talk about that. So we'll just do the hits. It was a long night, and Barone was there, so he'll be able to kind of come in and out here and kind of tell us what the crowd was going through, and just basically how overall the pay-per-view was. So it was a sold out crowd, man, just over 20,000 people. Philadelphia is everyone knows this for the last 30, 40 years that, if there's a list of the top 3, 4, or 5 markets for professional wrestling, Philadelphia might be 3 outside of New York and maybe Chicago.
I'd say like New York's probably the biggest market. When we talk about fans, Chicago and Philly are the top 2. If you go to any like Raw after Mania or something, the fans are fucking nuts.
Absolutely.
And both of those, Chicago and Philly.
I agree. And I've been to a lot of Philadelphia events and has Barone here. So to me, I've been to a New York wrestling show. We went to Mania, which is technically New Jersey, but we went to Mania in 35, which we will cover in this series. That was 81,000 people, and that place was nuts up until the final match, because at that point we've watched 7 hours of wrestling.
It was a long, cold night.
It was a long day, and we'll talk about that when we get there. So, all right, Barone, we're here now, January 25th. This is the official kickoff of the WrestleMania season. What was the crowd like when you guys got there? Did you expect a big show? What was your feeling going into this pay-per-view?
The crowd was great all night. It was the first match was like a pre-show match, and it was Cesaro and Tyson Kidd against the New Day. And this was when the New Day first started. Mm-hmm. And people hated them. They were not the juggernaut they are today or became later on. Massive New Day sucks chance when they were doing the New Day rocks. New Day sucks. No one was into them. Everyone was still on the Cesaro hype train. Everyone loved him. Mm-hmm. But the match was pretty good, and the crowd was into it, even though it wasn't. It was pretty full. It was only one match on the pre-show.
Yeah.
But it was a good match. But yeah, I just remember New Day getting booed because they were still like no one cared, and they were it was stupid, the gospel thing they were doing in the beginning.
It was, yeah.
And to give them credit, they took it and ran with it, made it their own,
Mm-hmm.
and became one of the most over acts in the company.
For sure. And I my right on this was I gave it, the only reason why I'm doing this, and I hate the existence of Dave Meltzer, but because we do a wrestling podcast, y'all basically judge things by stars. So I gave this match 3 stars. I thought it was a very good tag match. The right team won because they're the better of 2 teams.
And look who's in it. I mean, it's
exactly.
Kid and Cesaro are phenomenal workers, and New Day's great too. All those guys can work. So
Absolutely.
You're going to get a good in-ring worked match, whether you get a great storyline out of it or not.
For sure. And I figured the New Day would win because WWE wanted to establish them as a threat. But that theory obviously proved to be wrong. I'm glad I was wrong because Kid and Cesaro should have been a top heel tag team in WWE. And put them in a feud with the Usos at that time. Please. The final 5 minutes of that match was awesome. These guys pulled out, can go all out for entertainment purposes for in a match. It's good for the tag division to have quality teams like these 2 guys at the time. The crowd, like you said, hated the New Day. So perhaps they, were maybe thinking to do a heel turn, which obviously it didn't because they started getting so over. Yeah. But at that time, you just didn't know where they were going with them. But then again, the Philly fans are known to be very cruel. So maybe WWE just wouldn't react to it in their head. But we all know what eventually happened with the New Day. They became one of, if not the hottest act in the company. And like Barone said, credit to them guys for taking something so bad and turning it into absolute gold.
Yeah, they really took that whole bad gimmick, and did a couple things. And when those things hit, they ran with them, like the Bootios thing.
Yes.
How stupid is that?
I know.
Then they have their own cereal. They started wearing this really bright colored stuff that was over the top, but it sold. It was great, and all 3 of those guys can work. We saw what happened with Kofi. Xavier Woods has kind of been on the back burner, but he's a good wrestler.
Right.
And now Big E's getting the push he deserves.
I agree. And as we're recording this, we're watching Saturday night's main event on the television from 1990, or is this at the back end?
Back end 89.
Still 89. And we just, we can't hear it, but we just saw the promo with Randy Savage. And look, I know the guy's one of the most legendary performers of all time, but I would love to know before that promo how much cocaine that man ingested.
I'm sure these 2 shared a bag.
I'm sure
Hogan's going off now, and it's
like no normal human can do that on a normal set of testosterone. It's just unbelievable. And then you have going on from this. It was at this time the New Age Outlaws were a thing. Mm-hmm. In 2015, the New Age Outlaws were a thing, but they could work.
They could. For being older, Billy Gunn's a mutant.
You
look at him; his body really hasn't changed his whole life. He's still jacked.
Yep,
he can still go.
Both the sons are in AEW.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And if anyone who hasn't seen Billy Gunn in person, I've talked about. He's huge.
Is he?
He's really, really big.
What is he, like 6'4"?
He's got to be at least 6'4", 6'5". I'm 6'3", and he's bigger than I am.
Wow.
And he's just he's a big guy. So when you see him on there, granted he's in there with a bunch of other monsters, but you don't realize how big he is until you actually meet him or see him.
Man. So New Age Outlaws versus the Ascension, it was short, which was kind of expected. They got a little bit more, I think, than 5 minutes. Which 5:25. I thought so. Okay. At that point, the Ascension was a top team in NXT at its birth back then, and
fucking Vince ruined.
Oh yeah, that's one of those tag teams where I can sit on this show and say, yeah, Vince had no idea what he was doing with them. Yeah, the Ascension hadn't had a great start at that time, but we were thinking at this point maybe if they can get some meaningful wins under their belt, this could help them forward. But when you look at the Outlaws, man, how over were they that night?
Yeah, they're the Outlaws. They're legends.
Mm-hmm.
This is the wrestling fans are great because you bring them in, even if they are as heels, which they weren't here, they're still going to get cheered because of what they used to do, and everyone knows they're not going to be like this long thing. So it's kind of like enjoy them while they're here, you know.
For sure. I agree. And then, not I'm not necessarily going in order, but these are just how I wrote them down. The tag team titles, the Usos versus Miz and Damian Mizdow. I rewatched this match yesterday, and all that arena wanted, Barone, was Damian Mizdow.
All wrestling fans wanted in this era was Damian Mizdow. He was so over and so good doing the like the stunt double shit.
So
Oh, it
good.
was so funny. If you go back and watch that stuff where like Miz is getting put in a hold and he'll hop in the ring and act like he's getting suplexed and then he'll flip himself.
You talk about kind of exposing the business.
It was great.
I love that. And you know what? And you kind of feel bad because the Usos at that time, even like now when they're in a match, they're the best tag team in the world.
They're so good.
But nobody cared.
Nah.
It was
especially back then because they still had that like colorful
entrance.
Yeah. The Uso Penitentiary, when they turned heel, it was great for them because they got an edge and attitude, and their matches were still really good. So
I agree with you 100%. Now on the screen here is the next Saturday Night's main event with the Warrior and a pre-tape. Fun fact: over under this took about 4 hours to record.
Probably about 4 hours. Like I was telling Chris before we started recording, I've been on a Saturday Night's main event kick from when I was a kid watching all the old ones, and you go back and listen to him, and it's like, people have talked about what the fuck was he talking about?
Right.
No one knows. But like I'm listening to it going, as a kid, I would eat this up.
Oh my God.
The muscles and the veins.
Absolutely.
From the heavens and him snarling and stuff. He's a cartoon character. It was great. Couldn't work a lick.
No.
He was he drew us in. He was great.
And to be honest, when you're like 8 years old, you're not going to know what he's saying, even if he made sense. It just looks good.
It looks cool.
All right. So now we're getting into, the crux, the meaty parts of this show. And, we're going to talk now about that WWE World Heavyweight Championship match. It was Brock Lesnar versus John Cena versus Seth. The incumbent champion walking in here is Brock. And this is like, this is where Brock is as mutant as he's been in like the second run here with the WWE. So basically, you got these three guys, man. Was this the first time you saw John Cena live?
Yeah.
Okay.
This is probably the first wrestling event I had been to since I was a kid.
Mm-hmm.
Like I kind of got out of wrestling and got back into it, and never had the money to really go to any of these things.
Mm-hmm.
And this was coming up. My wife bought me tickets for a birthday gift, and anyone who knows my wife, when she does something, she goes big. That's why we were 6 rows from the ring. But John Cena got heavily booed.
Oof.
Heavily. This is one of the first times I heard the John Cena sucks chance really
was
loud.
It like deafening? It was, oh my
really
gosh.
Loud. It was bad, but it was great because it was kind of like he kind of laughed about it because he could hear like what was going on. But yeah, he got booed out of the building.
Brock got cheered.
He did.
Big time. I mean, so did Seth.
Great match. The match was so good.
I can't wait to talk about it because I think this was the match that solidified to WWE that, well, like Seth might be a guy we can go with.
He was getting cheered, and his in-ring work was always there, but now you see it on a main event level with Brock and Cena.
Two top, tippy-top guys. Yeah.
And he made... I mean, we all know Brock and Cena can work. Like a lot of people give Cena shit for not being like, the wrestler.
Yeah.
But watch this match. It's people always shit on Brock and Cena for not working. Seth can't pull a match out of two guys at once. It's
absolutely not.
Match is so good.
And if he doesn't want you to, no one will pull a match out of Brock.
No,
so
you see it too. Brock doesn't work for you if he doesn't really like you.
Exactly.
Know what's going on.
And Barone and I have talked, and one day we're going to do probably a profile show on just Brock and our favorite moments and stuff like that. I sometimes I'll text, Barone when Brock comes back, and I go, man, I can't stand Brock. And I watch a match with Brock, and I go, God, I love watching him work.
He draws you back.
He really does. And even when he's at this, quote unquote, beast incarnate era where he was just dominating, it's so damn impressive because you look at him and for a fact he will kill you if he doesn't like you. But he is so good at what he does, and he's so underrated because I was watching that match, like I said the other night, that main event at Mania against Roman, and my God, did he sell for Roman Reigns? And I'm just like, this guy's so good when he wants to be.
You look at it, the last Royal Rumble when he started one and ran through everybody, he was working, whatever. When Drew kicked him out and he sold on the
Holy
ground,
God, yeah.
he laid there forever. And someone pointed out, they're like, look at him sell. He has this he's unsure about himself. He doesn't know what just happened.
Mm-hmm.
He's thinking if he can really beat this guy. It's when Brock's one of the best sellers in the business. He's kind of like Hogan.
I agree.
It's Hogan back in the day never worked, but he sold his ass off.
Mm-hmm.
Brock's the same way. When he wants to, he sells like nobody else. And you believe it because he's so dominant. Like when he tears through guys and then he's actually getting beat and you see him down, you're like, holy shit, this other guy has a chance,
Yeah. And you know how good sometimes Brock is so good before he even touches a guy. Just take that same Rumble. He basically put over Keith Lee without touching him.
Yeah.
When on that entrance and when they got in the ring.
Oh, look at this big guy.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, okay, well, Brock notices him. So that's a big thing. For this entrance here for this match, was Brock the most over?
I think so, yeah. People knew Seth was great and what he was going to do, but Brock's Brock. And I don't know if a lot of people had seen him live, especially not like a main event like this, but he definitely, if I can remember, he got the biggest pop out of the three. Besides Cena getting booed, Cena was the loudest, but it was negative.
Was he the loudest boo of the night?
Yeah.
Was that the loudest reaction of the night?
No. Later on,
we'll get into that.
Roman winning was
the
loudest.
We'll get into that up for sure next. But to kind of piggyback what Barone said about his wife going big, I can attest to this because one, Barone's like 6'4", so that's one thing. Two, we were like literally where we were for WrestleMania because she waited to get the tickets for us. Where we were for WrestleMania, like we didn't have to do anything the entire night where our seats were. We literally saw the entire stage, anything that happened, we saw. So yeah, I can attest to where, when she digs your heels into something, it's going to work out great for everyone involved.
Which is something I love about her because she always says, like, if you're going to do it, spend the money and do it right. So
for sure. And it's a once in a lifetime thing.
Yeah.
Because who knows when we'll be able to go to Mania again. So I gave this match 5 stars. And to me, it was just phenomenal from start to finish. And it helps, like Barone said, the crowd was so into it from start to finish. It really was. It's tough to explain, though, how amazing it was. But if you saw it, then you would know for yourself. There were basically 3. How I wrote this is there were 3 chapters in this match. Lesnar dominated the first third with a barrage of suplexes, which was his MO at that point. Then Lesnar got taken out because Rollins put him through a table with just an incredible float through the air elbow drop. And that was after Seth took a massive beating. That led to some great pinfall sequences between Cena and Rollins, where they were kicking out of everything. Rollins, like we said, hit that top rope move, and that's when Lesnar came back. He dominated the final 2 minutes with the clean win on Rollins with the F5 that we saw. But you go through that match, and it was literally like a movie. There was a beginning, there was a middle, and then there was a climax. But there was a point in that match, man, where I really thought we might see a new direction going towards Mania. Like, one, Cena was so good in that match too. But then you see this guy that, has had the Money in the Bank briefcase, but you never thought for a second he was going to be someone who's going to now be in the main event, but he's thrown into this main event to make it a triple threat. And you're in the crowd. Was there a point where the crowd kind of went away from Brock and Cena and everyone's like, let's watch Seth?
Yeah. What's it called? The Phoenix Splash.
Yeah.
Whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
I think this is the first time he did that.
Mm-hmm.
In a major match.
Yeah.
And I remember the crowd being like, oh shit, like what the fuck was that? We haven't seen, and I was hoping he'd do it more often, but I understand why he doesn't. It's a pretty, crazy move.
Yes.
But, you kind of saw the shift, like when Brock got put through the table and was laying there. We get it, we're giving him a break.
Mm-hmm.
But then you really get to see Seth and Cena work and Seth work, and then when Brock came in at the end, it gets a huge pop because they know he's back in the match. But I think this is the match when Seth had the two Stooges, right? Mercury and
Yep. Noble.
Noble, and Brock suplexes both of
Oh
them,
my God. Yeah.
right? He picks both up at the same time, not like them two holding on to each other, one in each hand,
Right.
and does the double suplex, which is pretty cool to see.
It was.
And the crowd reacted to it like like crazy shit they just saw. You never seen anything like that.
No.
But yeah,
No.
this match was great. It's great to watch. It was great live.
Yeah, I was
Highly
impressed.
recommend.
Yeah, I was impressed by all of it. Lesnar and Rollins were both fantastic in everything that they did. Cena, of course, did well. Although he didn't stand out as much as the other two because I don't think it was meant. I think it was meant to showcase. It basically gave you an early look at what WrestleMania was going to look like, which is great creative and great booking. Because if your plan was to have what happened at Mania happen, this is where you have to start selling Rollins to the audience.
Yeah.
How is it going to work? How are they going to react? And I think they booked it perfectly.
And him losing was kind of like one of those like, he's out of it, afterwards. And then you're just looking at, okay, it's Roman, Brock, and Mania. How's this going to go?
Right. And it, oh man, it was just so great. That whole build up to Mania was so perfect that year. So, the way they had Lesnar booked to me was perfect. I wish he wrestled more often, which we talk about, and then he didn't leave. But, sadly, that's probably, what they knew was going to happen once Mania came, and he did leave for a little bit. But Lesnar, and we talked about this before, is such a phenomenal performer. Rollins is a big time star, for that time. And then, of course, the future. I love this match. To me, it was a match of the year contender for sure. Just really helped us go into Mania. So yeah, overall, would that be a 5-star match for you? Or
hands down the best match, one of the best matches I've seen in a while.
I agree. I agree. All right, so this is the part that we've been waiting for. This is the Royal Rumble match. So I guess Barone, take it away here. I think it started off with what, the Miz and R-Truth, correct? Were they 1 and 2? So in terms of surprises, Barone, that's what we're accustomed to with the WWE and the Royal Rumble. Obviously, Miz and R-Truth isn't really going to generate a huge reaction. However, there was a couple big ones. I think the third entry was a huge one. So kind of break it down for you. Was the crowd ready for the Rumble, or was it maybe a bad idea for the Rumble to follow that basic main event?
Nah, I mean, I think it was in a good spot. Everyone was up from the match, and the Royal Rumble always gets people up. It's funny or fun. It's my favorite match. It's my favorite pay-per-view. But yeah, the Miz and R-Truth start out, and they have a little match, and then the third person out is Bubba Ray Dudley, who hasn't been in a company in forever. He's an ECW guy. ECW's from Philly.
Right.
We're in Philly. He got the pop of the night from the Rumble. It's one of the biggest pops you'll hear, because it was out of nowhere. I didn't hear anything leaked about this, which was great. But yeah, he comes out, and him and R-Truth do the the what's up, get the tables and all that stuff.
Yeah,
which got a great pop. So yeah, it was a great number 3 right off the bat. You get that surprise.
Yep.
You get the little humor in there and out of the way. But other than that, I liked the Rumble. I thought it was pretty good. A lot of people shit on it because of the ending, and I get that, but I'm kind of biased because I was there live.
Right.
But it was good. I liked it.
So other than what do you had? Bubba Ray, I think DDP showed up, right?
The Boogeyman came back.
Of course, the Boogeyman.
And it was a kind of a little cool thing with him and Bray Wyatt, because Bray was like a weirdo, and the Boogeyman, if you don't know, he ate fucking worms on TV. So
they were shooting worms.
Yeah, they weren't working worms, which they were. They were real, because if you watch it, you see him crawling around his
nasty.
Mouth. But yeah, the Boogeyman came out, and then DDP comes out at 14. So, like, that was a cool little thing. Wasn't expecting to see that. And he comes out and does the diamond cutter on everybody, which is always cool to see.
Yeah. So. Do you think they missed an opportunity to bring back Devon? Would that have been good, or do you think it just might?
I read the reason they had R-Truth do it was because Devon couldn't. He was contractually obligated or something like that to do other things.
Oh, wow.
And he couldn't because usually when Vince calls, you drop everything you're doing. But I think he had a contract and couldn't do it, so they did it with
Makes
R
sense.
Truth. Because you got to substitute a black guy with a black guy. That's how they think.
Right, of course. Of course. So let's kind of go down if you want, we can when did Roman come in? Was it like 1920? 19th. Okay, and who lasted the longest the entire night?
Bray Wyatt. He came in at number 5 and he lasted almost 47 minutes.
And he didn't even get to the final 4.
No.
That's unbelievable. Bray. I'm so sorry for him. The final 4 in this match.
Well, the letdown this night, and the reason it got booed out of the building.
Oh, I remember now.
Daniel Bryan.
That's it.
Daniel Bryan comes out at number 10, and he's in there for 10 minutes.
Yeah.
He gets 1 elimination, and he's kind of like anticlimactically eliminated. And as soon as he went down, like the year before, when he didn't even come out,
right,
the match was dead. And this is part of the reason why Bryan didn't get that. He didn't even have like a good showing.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
So that was when maybe the crowd, that's when it was kind of going away.
They started going like, what the fuck, you know? Because there was rumors about Roman winning, and everyone was still kind of like, you know, maybe Daniel Bryan will finally give it to him. But as soon as he went out, everyone was like, well, we know where this is going.
So at what point, because you were, you know, you're, like you said, 6 rows from the ring. So that first level, I always like, you know, when I sat first level with events, you know, that was fans that had, you know, spent the money to be there, and they kind of can tell you on TV where they think things are going. At what point, in your opinion, did you know this is Reigns? This is it's going to be Roman?
I kind of knew before. Like I was pretty sure they were going to go that way, but yeah, when Daniel Bryan got eliminated,
that was it.
Like, he was the only other one. Like if you look down this list, him and Bray Wyatt, maybe Bray Wyatt, but I don't think he was at the point yet, popularity wise, to win the Rumble. But like you look at the people in it, it's those 2.
Yeah.
And the rest are kind of like, you know, fill-ins and maybe a guy here and there. Like Ryback's time had already passed.
Yep.
You know, so.
And you had to look, and I knew when, you know, going back and watching this, and you obviously knew before I did, but I thought, and I remember watching this live, obviously you were there, but I was watching it at home. Once that final 4 came, which was Reigns, Ambrose, Show, and Kane, you knew, like, they're not going to go with Ambrose, and they're definitely not going with Show or Kane.
Yeah.
If they would have had that final 4 as Daniel Bryan, Ambrose, Wyatt, and Reigns,
yeah.
I think at the end, depending on the showing, I think the crowd might have been a little bit more accepting of Reigns.
Yeah, and half the match wouldn't have got booed.
Right.
You know,
because like you said, you lost the crowd when Daniel Bryan left.
When Daniel Bryan went out. So, and if you look now, what they do with the Royal Rumble, they start doing that now. Where the final 4 are like, okay, I can see this going any which way,
right?
Or at least 3 of the ways, and then there's another guy in there. You know, at least they've learned with that. At least have a strong final 4. You know, but like with this one, if I go down, it's more than half these people aren't even with the company anymore.
I know, it's so bad.
Yeah, while you talk, I'll count them. But yeah,
oh, it's fine. So, you know, Reigns hit a leaping clothesline on the show. It looks like Reigns was bleeding from the mouth at this point. Kane hit a big boot to slow down Reigns, and then the heels just destroyed Ambrose. Big Show choke slammed Ambrose. That led to the show and Kane dumping Ambrose out. That was anticlimactic as well. That means
19 of them.
19 of the 30.
Kane is on that list because he's really not he's with the company, but not really.
Right.
19 of them don't wrestle for WWE.
Wow. That's incredible. That is unbelievable. You know, and then once, you know, Reigns is out, that means, once Ambrose was gone, that means Reigns is against the 2 evil big guys. The heels went to eliminate Reigns, but then Show tried to dump Kane out too. Kane got angry. He got angry about it. So they brawled. Kane and Show grab each other by the throat. Reigns walks over to them and dumps them both out.
Before that, The Rock comes out.
Oh, I was going right to that. You know, after the Rumble, Reigns got chokeslammed. The Rock's music hit, and he came out for the save to his cousin Roman Reigns. Rock hit the spine buster and rock bottom. He took care of the Giants. Rusev went back into the ring because he wasn't eliminated.
And that was a massive pop.
That
too.
was.
You go back and watch when he slides in the ring, everyone knew he wasn't going to win, but they all popped for him.
Right. Reigns gave Rusev a spear and then tossed him over the top to eliminate him. And then that's where you can see on television. So the hard camera, you're staring at the hard camera, but their backs are against you. So this is where you guys can go on a network and look at the end of this match where The Rock knew right away, well, this is not where I parked my car.
He's holding Roman's hand up, going like this, and you see him like,
wow,
with this confused look on his face, like, wait a second. Even The Rock couldn't get Roman over at this point. And you could kind of see like The Rock was thrown out there to try to like, go give Roman the rub. Didn't even work because it's Philly. They know.
What did the crowd, I mean, obviously before it happened, but did the crowd go, did you pop big when you heard The Rock's music?
Yeah, it's The Rock. You always pop.
Yeah,
you knew it was going to happen. And it was cool to see him because you really didn't think like he's going to be in the Royal Rumble match or involved with it,
Right.
So
it
was pretty cool.
But overall, out of 5 stars, what would you rate this pay-per-view?
The pay-per-view I thought was good. I'd give it like over a 3.25 maybe. The Rumble match is better than you think if you can get past the boost for Roman. The match isn't, like I said, Bubba's cool. The Boogeyman thing was kind of like, weird. DDP coming out and he got a big pop too, but him coming out, RKO, Diamond Cutter and everybody. You got to see The Rock. The triple threat was great. Like I said, Cesaro was great. If you're a Attitude Era guy, this is pretty cool to see because the New Age Outlaws were there.
And The Rock.
So Kane, you know what I mean? It's I enjoyed it. I had fun.
Did you leave right after it was over, or?
Yeah.
Okay, so like afterwards, there was no like Rock didn't hang around and cut a promo or anything.
I can't remember. I don't think he did. But I think at that point, my wife was over and she just wanted to get out of it. I remember when I went to the next one in Philly, after the Women's Rumble, we left.
Yeah, I remember texting you.
Yeah,
like, then, holy shit, Rhonda. And you're like, motherfucker.
I'm in the bathroom. I really don't care. We want to leave.
That was incredible. So, yeah, I think I'm right along with you. I give this a 3-star. I think the goal of this pay-per-view was Seth and Reigns, and I think it really worked.
It did.
It ended up working great. I mean, it didn't work out well in the end for Roman because, they had the rocket strapped to that guy with the Rumble, and literally 2-3 months later, they're completely changing the script. Yeah. So,
and we said forever ago that they need to turn him heel.
You're right.
They finally did, and it's the best shit he's done.
And he's incredible at it. Totally agree. So that's going to wrap up our Royal Rumble recall. Obviously, next year we'll do. Look, there's been like 35 Royal Rumbles, and we've only covered like 4. So there's a lot of them we're going to be able to touch upon next time around. But it's really cool because now we're going to shift our focus, guys, to WrestleMania season. And if I can remember straight now, I'm just saying this off the top of my head because I don't exactly remember what I typed, and that's a problem. I think we're covering WrestleMania 5, 17, 19, 25, and 35, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. And the reason we're covering those is because I think that's probably, in our opinions, maybe the greatest Manias ever.
WrestleMania 5 holds a special place in my heart.
Which is why we're covering it.
Like I said before, that's the earliest memories I have of wrestling are watching the Mega Powers and watching them explode the lead up to WrestleMania 5.
Right.
So all that's, and I had that WrestleMania on VHS. That's a tape for all you people that don't know what VHS is. I had it on VHS and I've watched that WrestleMania. It was like the only wrestling thing I had. So I watched it all the time.
Which is
and it's a good
not
show.
Bad. It's a good show. We'll definitely talk about that.
Your boy gets murdered on it.
He gets murked
Shawn
in that.
Michaels takes an absolute haymaker of a clothesline.
It
It's
was
great.
it was awesome. I think that was the first WrestleMania that I ever saw on pay-per-view or closed circuit television. I think it was called back then. I went with my Aunt Nancy. One day we'll have to get her on a show and talk. Maybe we'll do a
Bret
Montreal
Hart.
screw job episode. And we can
Stick a fucking knife in her a little hard.
We should definitely do that. We're gonna cover 17 because I mean, for all you wrestling fans that have been around a long time, it's the biggest WrestleMania of all time. Whether or not you guys think it's the best show of all time, it's literally in all statistics the biggest mania ever. So we'll definitely go. That was when WWE was at its absolute peak, and we're going to talk about that. 19. We're going to talk about that because realistically, from top to bottom, it's the best card in the history of WrestleMania. I mean, literally every match has got a Hall of Famers in it. Yeah. And we'll talk about that. 25 we're gonna discuss because that's got the greatest match we believe in the history of WrestleMania, maybe even wrestling. That's Undertaker versus Shawn Michaels. 35 we will talk about because Barone and I were physically there. And up until this WrestleMania, that was the last Mania that had fans. So we'll see obviously what happens with this one.
Not the last.
Yeah, it looks like we're gonna get over 25,000. Tickets go on sale March 13th for WrestleMania. March 16th. I'm sorry. Yeah, it is.
I guess they had to because they didn't know how many people they could
have. So right now they said 25,000.
I don't give a fucking.
I know. I bet you Vince is pissed that it's not in Texas this year because they're at 100% capacity.
He put 100,000 people.
He would easy. Absolutely. He would probably comp about 75,000 of them, but still, he'd get 100,000 people in that building. So he's pissed right now. But he should get 25 to 30,000 in Tampa Bay, which will be phenomenal. So the next time you guys hear us, we will be covering WrestleMania 5, which was headlined as the Mega Powers Explode. We are very much looking forward to that. Check us out, youtube.com/nerdthusiast. Subscribe. Watch or listen every show. Hit that like button.
This is a video now. We're actually doing videos. So if you want to come look at our ugly fucking faces for 40 minutes, head on over to YouTube. But if you're ever wondering what we look like and you want to put faces to the voices.
Right, for sure. You guys comment on our shows. Somebody commented today and want us to talk about AEW. The Revolution pay-per-view. We will touch on that eventually. Again, Barone and I don't like to talk too much current stuff. Obviously, we might get to that point eventually.
That ending was so fucking bad. How can you ignore it?
You're not wrong.
Well, everyone shits on it, but we're just gonna pile our shit on the top.
I know. We'll probably talk about that a little bit on the WrestleMania 5 episode. We'll maybe start things off with talking about that ending. But nonetheless, definitely send comments. Head over to our Twitters, you guys. That they're always attached to our videos on YouTube. Head over to patreon.com/nerdthusiast. You'll see our Katie Vick exclusive and then other things we got coming up. Again, Nerdthusiast, you guys got the gaming podcast, the poker show, and I know there's a movie one coming down the line.
Is Disney coming too?
Disney's coming eventually. I don't know if it's going to be me with somebody else. I don't know. My name's on the dotted line, so I'm contracted to eventually do a Disney show. So looking forward to that. I don't know where I'm going to find the time, but I'll do it at midnight if I have to. I don't care. I don't sleep. I'm a fucking vampire. I thank you guys very much. We hope you guys enjoyed this trip down memory lane from 2015, 6 years ago already. It's unbelievable. All right. Have a good rest of your weekend, guys, and we will catch you guys down the road. Have a good one. Bye-bye.